make some tote bags, and wow, are they cute, and wow, are they easy. You got a sewing machine and a little bit of fabric, you can make a bag. Now, I'm going to show you 2 different types of bags today. I'm going to show you a very simple bag. I know this one is very small. I made it for my son. You can make these any size you want. This is like the absolute bare bones, simplest tote bag you can make. And this one, it has a couple dings and whistles. Nothing crazy, nothing wild, just maybe some box corners on the bottom and a pocket on the inside. Let's jump right into it. I don't want to waste any time. In terms of supplies, it's kind of a choose your own adventure because you can make these any size that you want. The square bag over here that I'm making, I have 2 pieces for the outside, and then I have 2 pieces for the lining that are also identical. You are going to need some fabric as well for your straps, but we'll get into that later. My more complicated bag, I have quilted fabric here. How do you quilt the fabric? Easy. Grab a piece of batting, put your fabric on top of it, basting with pins so that it doesn't move around. And in terms of like how you want to quilt it, that's kind of on you. But if you can see here, I did something super simple. I just did diagonal lines that crossed each other to give this nice diamond pattern. Once that fabric was quilted, I cut out 2 pieces for the front and 2 identically sized pieces for my lining. In this quilted and more complicated bag, I'm also going to add a pocket, which is where we are going to start right now. Again, with the pocket, you can do it any size, any shape you want. I have a big long piece so that I can just fold it right sides together, and I'm only sewing on 3 of the sides rather than 2 pieces of completely separate fabric being sewn together. So I folded it up right sides together, and I am going to go around with a 1/4 inch seam, and I am going to sew all 3 sides. But on the top here, I'm going to leave about a 2 or 3 inch gap, and I'm going to backstitch, backstitch, backstitch. Leaving that hole will make it so that you can flip this out right side up. 1/4 inch, stop! Backstitch, pick up your needle, move it 3 inches, backstitch, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. Got it? Good. Pocket is sewn. I went ahead and I trimmed the corners a little bit just to make it nicer when I turn it out. Through that hole, let's push it through. Make sure to take extra care that your corners are nice and popped out. If your fingers aren't quite doing it, you can use a chopstick or something pointy that's not going to stab your fabric. Okay, there's my little pocket. Now I'm going to take my iron, and where I had my hole here, I'm going to fold those raw edges in, and I'm going to take my iron and I'm going to press just to make it nice for when I go around and sew that hole shut. It's already ironed closed. Now, in terms of closing that hole, I'm going to sew it closed while I am sewing it on the inside of one of my lining pieces. These pattern pieces that you're cutting out, try to do them taking into account a 1/2 inch seam allowance, meaning that when everything is said and done, these lining pieces are going to be missing 1/2 inch from the top, bottom, and both sides. I need to take that into consideration when I'm putting on my pocket. If I put it too close to the top, it might get like messed up, you know? But I do like a pocket for a phone and a wallet relatively close to the top. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball this. Could I measure? Sure. I could do a lot of things. I'll measure to make sure it's center. God. I like where I have my pocket. So I'm going to take pins, and I am going to pin around 3 out of 4 of these sides. Not all 4, otherwise I would be sewing my pocket shut. One of the most important places to pin is over that hole that was left in your pocket, those raw edges. My pocket is pinned on and ready to go to the sewing machine. Couple things that we all need to know when we take it over there. I'm going to go around this probably as close to the edge as I can get once. Then I'm going to go around it probably at 1/4 inch from the edge. Maybe I'll do that reversed. I don't know. But either way, I'm going to do 2 seams here all around. I want this pocket to be strong. I don't want it to fall apart. And that's why I'm doing those 2 seams all around. At these top points here, I'm I'm also going to backstitch, really reinforce it. At these bottom corners, I'm going to backstitch. I'm going to really reinforce it. If you want to, you can even put a middle stitch up the center and make it 2 pockets. However, I'm not going to because my big ass phone won't fit if I do that. But if you do that middle stitch, backstitch, backstitch, reinforce that All right, our pocket is attached. Now let's start sewing these bags together. The instructions I'm about to give work for both bags. Take the outside of your bag's pieces and place them right sides together, pretty sides together. I want you to sew a 1/2 inch seam around 3 sides, leaving the top open. While you're at your sewing machine, why don't you also take the lining with you? The lining is going to be sewn together very similarly. However, you are leaving an opening at the top, of course, but you also need to leave a small hole at the bottom, just like we did with the pocket. Remember, around that hole here, you want to backstitch. There is no difference in the process when you are sewing together lining that has a pocket. However, make sure that you are sewing it with your pocket facing up towards the opening, because God forbid you end up with an upside down pocket. That's a pocket. With our bag pieces sewn together, let's get into making straps.
In terms of length, do whatever makes sense for your bag, but width-wise, I did 4.5 to 5 inches. I just fold this into fourths towards the middle, and then once it's in fourths, I fold it in half, pressing each time you fold.
With this all folded together, I'm going to sew around the entire strap to seal this shut. In terms of your raw edges on either end, don't sweat those because they are going to get tucked in between the lining and the bag, and you're not going to see them. All right, we have our outer fabric, our linings, and our straps all sewn. So we need to now put this all together. Step 1 is I need you to trim your corners. Again, don't trim through the seams you made, but just trim the corners nice. I was pantomiming that because I've already done it. And with the outer fabric, turn it out. So cute. Make sure to poke the corners out. I'm going to press the seams. Just use your fingers to kind of roll the seams so that they're nice and flat and you're not losing any more fabric than is necessary inside of them. Perfect. Now, what we're going to do is trim the corners of your lining, but keep it with right sides together. Keep it inside out like this. We need to take our top fabrics and we need to shove it into the lining. Get that in there nicely. And you need to pin these 2 seams to line up perfectly. What I've been doing that has worked really nicely is I finger press my seams open, both on the inside and on the lining. And I take those 2 pieces and I pin those together. So I'm going to do that on both sides. Okay, we need to put our straps in. So first thing that you need to do is you need to make sure that your straps are the same length. We cut them to be the same length, but mistakes happen and you just sewed them. So make sure they're still at the same length. Mine look like they're still at the same length. Awesome. Next thing we want to do is we want to take one strap and we want to put it inside, in between the lining and the outside of the bag. Take care to make sure that you do not twist this while it's inside. And then you're going to place your strap where you kind of want it to hit. So I think mine should be about there. That seems like a good, reasonable place for it. And now I need to grab the top and the lining from one side, and I need to pin these straps into place. Make sure as you're pinning that you're keeping these edges all lined up. I'm going to double check one more time that my strap on the inside is not twisted. And then I am going to do the same thing on the other side of that strap. Okay, my first strap is in. I'm going to go ahead and just add a couple more pins around the lining on this side, just so that it's ready to be sewn once I finish with the other strap. Okay, and now I'm gonna turn the bag over and I'm gonna do the exact same thing with the other strap. Don't let it get twisted. Not only do you want it to match up in the same exact spot, but you want it to match up the same exact length. So we know that these straps went into this bag the same length. Now I wanna make sure that it stays the same length here. So this strap is sticking out the same amount as the other one, and it's in the exact same place. So I feel confident to pin it. Now I'm just gonna put my last few pins in to secure this side of the bag, and I can take it to my sewing machine. Go around this with a 1/2 inch seam, sewing around this. Don't sew your bag together. Sew around with a 1/2 inch seam. When you get to the parts with your straps, back stitch over this a couple times. That way these straps are strong and they can actually like hold this bag up when there's shit inside of it. All right, these are sewn together. Now the moment of truth, in the hole that you left for the lining, it's time to pull the whole thing out. Hopefully you backstitch like I told you to, because otherwise your hole is gonna have a hard time with all this mess coming through it. Woohoo! So take your lining and pop out the corners, and your corners should still be good on the top piece, but if it needs to be fixed, go in and do that. Take that hole that we left and make sure that those raw edges are tucked in, and we are going to press that with our iron. Take this back to your sewing machine and sew up this hole. All right, I sewed that hole up, and just by like sewing super close to the edge, like 1/16 kind of seam allowance. Now, take that lining and push it into your bag. Match up your corners nice. Hit it with an iron even. And I'm gonna put special emphasis on the opening of the bag, because we have one more step on this bag, which is to top stitch around the opening. That's gonna be like the difference between this bag just being like cute little functional bag and this bag being like washable, last a long time, is that top stitch. But like, look at how great it looks. If only there was a way to make it look a little better. Well, with our more advanced bag, I have this sewn on, like my straps are sewn on. I did that whole step. But before I turn the whole thing out through the hole, I'm actually going to take the top part out again like this. And I am going to do something called boxing the corners. Boxing the corners is going to give this bag a little bit of a flat bottom. It's going to just kind of like elevate the bag. So how do we do it? Well, I'm obviously gonna show you. Come closer. First of all, whatever you do to the top part of your bag, you are also gonna do the lining. They need to be the same. Grab the corner and pull it apart like this. And what you're going to do is match these seams of your corner up. Like, so it's pinched like this. With my seams pressed open, what I want to do is I'm going to put a pin in here, but instead of going on either side, I'm actually going to go like aim like dead center of the seam. And what I'm hoping for is that I can come out of the other side, dead center of the seam. If I can nail that, then I will feel confident that my seams are in the same spot. And I'm going to just bring my pin back through. Cool. Now I've got my corner pinned together in like this pinched triangle shape. So when you box your corners, if you want a 3-inch base, like at the bottom of your bag, then you need to measure out from here 1.5 inches, like from the very tippy point. 1.5 inches. If you want a 2-inch base, you measure at 1 inch out. 4-inch base, 2 inches. However wide you want your base to be, You cut that in half, and then that is where you need to measure to. Measure what? Well, I would like a 2-inch base at the bottom of my bag. So I'm going to measure out 1 inch here. I'm going to take a pen, mark that 1 inch right there, and then get a better hold on it. And I'm going to draw a straight line right at that 1 inch. And then I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew across this line. You're going to do this to all 4 corners. Both top pieces, both lining pieces, exactly the same. Be careful when you're messing with your lining that you don't actually eat up your strap in the meantime. All right, these corners are boxed. So what I'm going to do is I just want to turn this out before I trim the corners to make sure that it looks right. And I'm gonna reach in and just check my little boxed corners. Hi, I'm a box. Okay, they look even. They look the same. I'm living. Yeah, baby. Pull this out. And I'm just going to trim off that boxed corner part. If you're playing a drinking game right now and you drank every time I said boxed corner at this point, it'd be up. All right, I've pushed that out. Oh my God, it looks so cute. I'm gonna trim the corners on my lining as well. Finish turning this out. Little boxes on the hilltops. There's my pocket. She's stunning. Woo, I'm excited because this is for me. I need to close the hole here. So let me run back to the sewing machine. Got to go through the motions. Got too excited. Same as the other bag. I'm just going to press the raw edges on the inside, and I'm going to sew as close to the edge as possible here to close that hole up. How cute. Like, I love these. They came out so good. Like just that slight boxed corner on this one gives it a little bit more body. We got a pocket in here. This one is perfect, so simple. Anybody can make this. You can make this. Go make these.